Hello, everyone. I am so excited because welcome to the 2023 astrology panel. I have called it 2023 Spilling the Astro Tea. And I am so excited to have so many astrologers. And if you're joining us today, welcome. You're in for a treat because we have Laura Black from the Cosmic Consultant with us, all the way from the US of A. How are you?
I'm doing great. It's so good to be here with you.
Aw. We were just cackling because as we're recording today, the moon has moved into Gemini. Laura is a Gemini, Sun, Mars. I have Mercury in Gemini, and the moon's right there banging out like this is a time for us. Mars is also in Gemini at the moment. So get ready for lots of talking, lots of words, lots of laughing, and, maybe tripping over our own words because it's going to be a good time. I'm so excited to be diving into 2023 with Laura. But firstly, I'm going to ask all of my astrologers the same question as we introduce you and really nut into what you love about astrology the most, Laura. What is it? Tell us the juice.
Oh, that's so hard. It's always hard when you ask a Gemini, what's your favorite? And it's like, on which day and which mood do you mean? It's ever changing. But I think pervasively there is this intense gratitude that astrology gave me the gift of finally being seen, because so many of us come from families or situations where there's a detachment from self, a separation, a lack of connection with family, with caretakers, with whatever, and we feel lost and unseen. And then if you're, Gemini, and you don't know who you are exactly until a long journey of discovery and kind of collaging and then undoing what's not you. By process of elimination, I've come to know myself, and the whole time had astrology showing me yes, this is you. You know yourself. Don't listen to what you're being told to be, or the confusion that's running through you in your life. Here's a mirror. Here's a mirror to see every aspect of your being. And I just, that's my favorite thing about the work that I do with my clients, is helping them feel seen, and sometimes so wholly and completely, and for the first time in their lives. It's life-changing. It's so empowering to know yourself the way that life knows you, the universe knows you. It's beautiful.
I love that. And it is like astrology sees us, and you're so right. Like when we sit with clients, there's like this weight of the world. Often they just relax. They're like, oh, that's why. And it's not because, as we know, it's not because planets do anything to us. It's because of this beautiful formulation of magic that we are, because we are the universe. We are literally made up of stardust and planets and earth matter. We're made up of that. So, the actual alchemy of astrology, when two planets get together, there's an alchemy, there's a chemical reaction. Like this is what happens. So if you've got two planets together in your chart, like there's a chemical reaction, and sometimes it's explosive and other times it's like juicy, yummy honey love. But the thing is that when we are recognized and seen, especially from your space and not knowing a bit about your past, that would have been just so liberating. Like a big black cloak would have come off you, and freedom and liberation from the heart. And that is what it does, is it gives us liberation, and we can live from this space of freedom. Like, this is who I am.
Amen.
Yeah. So beautiful. Okay, so let's get into your topic, because we all know that we all know that I try my best to keep these short, sharp, and succinct. Oh, say those three words really quickly with Mars on you, with the moon on your Mercury.
Mercury retrograde.
Yes, and Mercury is retrograde. That's exactly right. My God, in my first house. Actually, I don't know. No, in my 12th house, just on my ascendant.
Oh, mine too. Libra Rising Club over here.
Yes, with the Libra Rising Club. I mean, I need to do a little panel like this of Libra risings, because when we've got the same rising, okay, cue just a tiny little tangent.
Aside.
Tiny little, just a little one. But when you've got the same rising sign, it means that you're going through the collective stuff the same. So it means that we've had Pluto going through the 4th house. It means that, Saturn's in our 5th. It means that Jupiter's in our 6th. And, it's a really nice, like, let's talk about that. Let's unpack that. And I was talking to another astrologer Instagram, and she's also Libra rising, and she was like, I don't think people really know fundamentally how intense transit Pluto through the fourth is, that it's one of these transits that maybe people don't really understand. And for some people, you will never have that in your entire life. You will never have Pluto transit your fourth house. And it is because the fourth house is the roots of our entire chart, like without the healthy roots, the tree doesn't prosper. And so Pluto is going through that root part of our chart, and literally, like, it's been a reckoning, and especially with the Saturn and Jupiter and the South Node all in
Uranus and the North Node in the seventh. Oh my gosh, yeah.
yes, it's a lot. So I think that it's the invitation to get some rising clubs together and sharing, because we need to prep those Scorpio risings.
Yes,
we need to prep. Exactly. So we prep the Scorpio risings because they're about to get Pluto through their fourth with the Scorpio IC. Anyway, all the
I like that idea.
Yes, I think we should do it. Yes, it was her idea. It wasn't my idea. Someone else that I follow on Instagram. So I would definitely chat to her too. So next year is huge, and you're going to find out all of the things throughout all of these interviews, but let's focus on Laura and her beautiful conversation. Last year, 2022, you spoke Pluto, Laura Black, like having a last name is Black. We've got to dive into Hades, and Laura will be talking about Pluto squaring the nodes and all of the other juice that she's got ready for us. So I am ready to sit back, take notes, and hear your transit aspects of 2023 that you want to just vibe with.
Cool. I'm so excited. This is one of my favorite subjects. Anything Plutonic. Plutonian energy is my jam, or my assigned jam. So I have Pluto on my ascendant, exact, conjunct my Saturn in the first house, just off by 1 degree, right? We're Pluto ascendant twins too. I love that. So I feel really called to Pluto. When you were talking about the 2023 panel, I thought, oh, okay. Pluto squaring the nodes. I'm really interested in this because of what we're coming off of from 2020. Some people like to, this is widely argued. I would love to hear your thoughts on this, actually. They argue that, though we've been approaching the age of Aquarius since, the 60s or so, here we are smack officially at the beginning of it as of the grand conjunction of Saturn and Jupiter at 0 degrees of Aquarius in December of 2020. Interesting thought. You definitely I see the shift, kind of a lifting of the Piscean age veil, and this like hard thrust of information into our faces, this messy awakening, as I like to call it. But that Saturn and Jupiter conjunction in Aquarius was the initiation of a long journey of a demand for awareness, for increased awareness. And awakening is kind of a shocking, we're talking like tower card kind of experience, right? And so I feel like as we've journeyed since 2020 toward this current transit of Saturn squaring the nodes, at the time of this recording at least, we are going through this kind of 1 step forward, 2 steps back journey. So Saturn, of course, brings these limitations, these delays, these challenges, and currently squaring, causing a sort of a lacerative effect, or a demand for action with problems to approach every time, the square to the nodes, which are, these karmic fated lines, so to speak. I don't always like the word fate for this. I love the way my teacher, Deborah Silverman, always calls the North Node your shortcut to enlightenment. I love that. So when we're thinking about the collective, who is it? Alex of Coyote Star Astrology talks about the South Node as kind of your bowl of shit, if I may swear on your YouTube channel. This collective shadow that we're all trying to use or access the light qualities of to launch us into this kind of North Node trajectory point. With Saturn blocking the way, he's saying, get over here. And also, don't you dare take another step forward, or I'm going to hold you back. I always think of Saturn squaring the nodes as like a big, mean brother who's got his arm out with his hand on my head. And he's saying, come on, hit me. And I'm swinging and I can't reach him. He's holding me back, but egging me on. Maybe that reveals a lot about my relationship with my siblings. But Saturn squaring the node says, get over here. And also, I'm going to hold you back. Now we're evolving toward 2023, where Pluto is going to slide into this square relationship to the nodes. And now all of a sudden, it's a gathering of all of this forced awareness, the struggle, the demand to innovate and problem solve, the disconnection from our communities, our friends. Where are my people? I don't fit in. I feel isolated. I'm having a hard time connecting and feeling free, Saturn and Aquarius, and so much more. But the forced awareness and the kind of tower card season that we've all been through collectively as a whole across this planet, suddenly we have Pluto saying, and now, in order to use the South Node to launch yourself forward to this North Node trajectory, shadow work is no longer an option. Because Pluto is there saying, and now I'm going to, Lord of the Underworld, bring you down deep into the core of the issue. I'm going to force you to dig. You want to come forward on this journey toward the North Node? Something's going to have to be surrendered. Something has to die and be released. You cannot come forward with the same patterns as before. And I've spent the last couple of years forcing you to see those patterns. Wherever Aquarius energy is in your chart, wherever Taurus energy, really the fixed signs have been getting just smashed with answer to me, pay attention to me for the last couple of years. So I think this Pluto squaring the nodes transit is really significant, not only because Pluto squaring the nodes is always significant, and I've got a timeline for people to reflect on these years, the last time this happened, but also because it's not just happening in one sign. We're crossing over signs. So it's out of sign a little bit here. And we were just talking about this before hitting record. Like, what do you think about wider orbs? Are we talking 3 degrees, 5 degrees, 10 degrees when we're talking about a planet like Pluto aspecting the nodes? And I don't know, I'm a Gemini. So there's always multiple perspectives on this for me. I'm always like, yes, this is the way. And also that's the way. And there's never really clarity. So I'm going to kind of talk about the blend, the broad passing of Pluto squaring the nodes, even as the nodes shift signs and Pluto shifts signs. And there's not exact crisp, hey, we're in the same modality here. We've shifted over to Capricorn, all the nodes are still in the fixed signs, but there's still a conversation unfolding. It adds a lot of complexity. So let's start to dig and see what this looks like. In terms of timeline, the last time that Pluto was squaring the nodes was back in December of 2014 is when it really started to begin. And that's when we came into a 5-4 degree orb. And then the vast majority, the first half of 2015. So if you as an audience think back to what was happening in your life at that time, how progress forward in your life, and wherever we're talking at that time about, pardon me, wherever, oh, pardon me, it was back in Sagittarius. I was about to say wherever Capricorn was, but wherever Sagittarius energy was in your chart, what was going on back then? Because that was what was being investigated, where there was sort of a death and rebirth, and the nodes squaring that. So at this point, we've had Pluto pass over the South Node in 2019. That was the vast majority of 2019. We had that Pluto, Saturn, South Node conjunction in Capricorn. Well, we all saw the kind of the fallout of that into the beginnings of 2020, how that affected the whole world. And now we have the first time since all of this undoing and unraveling, Pluto coming again square to the nodes. So this is a collective demand for healing, a demand for shadow work around so many scorpionic themes that I'd like to list. That's uncovering and revealing the dark, ugly truth that has come up in each of our personal lives since and through all of these last couple of years. So in March of 2023 is when we first start to get kind of a hint of this. And, you know, there are astrologers out there who really see these outer planets, especially something as potent as Pluto, as needing a 10-degree orb or wider. They're like, it's not a light switch to flip it on and off. It's really, this is a long bleeding together journey. So of course you might kind of start to see themes of this unraveling or this healing come up earlier. But in as of March 7th, 2023 is when we have a 5-degree orb from Pluto to the nodes. And at that time, Pluto is at 29 degrees of Capricorn. The nodes are at 4 degrees of Taurus and Scorpio. So we're a little bit out of sign here. And this is one of the conversation around what does that mean when they're not in the same modality. We've got Capricorn, a cardinal earth sign, and we're all experiencing since 2008 this transit of Pluto through Capricorn affecting the economy, currently really loudly affecting, you know, shipping and transits and the economy in more ways than ever before, as we're trying to figure out how do we heal that collectively. what is government, what is power, what is money anymore, but also personally, what is my legacy? What am I building? What's my personal Rome that wasn't built in a day and I need to spend my whole life giving all of this determined energy, committed energy to build something of value to me? What are my goals? So as Pluto is in 29 degrees of Capricorn and the nodes are still fresh in the, or reaching the early degrees as they retrograde mostly through Taurus and Scorpio, we're coming toward the end of the journey of the nodes through Taurus and Scorpio, where we've been dealing with this financial axis. South node in Scorpio, financial crisis, North node in Taurus, conjunct Uranus, innovative solutions to heal our relationship with money. South node in Scorpio, I'm a fear-based mindset. North node in Taurus, stabilize, simplify, heal your relationship with the earth, with food, with your own self-worth above all. What are your core values? Not those projected onto you by others or those that you assume are important because everybody else seems to know. Who are you and what are you? Of course, my beautiful Taurus friend, what am I worth and what is worth to me? What is worthy of me and my time and my efforts? So while the North Node is calling us forward in those final early degrees of Taurus and Scorpio, Pluto is saying, this is the time, the maximum capacity of energy coming in for the collective to deal with Capricorn and the dark underbelly of Capricorn. So we know there's some intensity that we've been feeling, that sort of the final degrees of Pluto in Capricorn intensity for a while now, at least since 2020, if not before. But then as of March 23rd in 2023, now we have Pluto officially landing in Aquarius, 0 degrees. We have the nodes still at 4 degrees. So now we've got a 4-degree orb and we're within sign. We're in the same modality here. I've heard all kinds of weird and wonderful ideas about Pluto entering Aquarius, and I'm so excited to see what comes out in this panel about that. But we know that whatever it is, there is forced surrender. There's forced death and rebirth for anybody who's even attempting to move out of this South Node in Scorpio. So for anybody who's been putting in efforts along these themes of reaching toward Taurus, financial stability, comfort, pleasure, knowing the self-worth, knowing the values, growing your own food, healing your relationship with the earth in some way, personally or collectively. In order to do that at that point, it's a sort of like Gandalf at the gates, you shall not pass unless you're willing to die. There's some part of you that just has to let go. So let's talk scorpionic themes for a moment. And I'd love any input you have for me, Tierney, about, of course, death and rebirth. I always think when I think of Scorpio is how death transforms the living, like literal, when we lose someone and they cross over. All these water signs, of course, have to do with the portal between realms and the mystery of life and death. And for Scorpio, someone crosses over and those of us left behind are, rips at the fabric of our lives. And the connection isn't lost, it is transformed, and the transformation shows up potently in the survivors, in the remaining. When you think about the fact that we've had this sort of scorpionic undertaking of world events for the last couple of years, and how there's a literal component of death to that, that has been very heavy on our minds. Now, the rest of us, the remaining of us, are transformed by this. And that goes off in all directions. But the direction we're being called toward is Taurus. So what are you willing to surrender in order to achieve this sort of the high road of Taurus, the enlightened Taurus state, the magic of, I think of your book, The Magic in the Mundane. I think of the beauty and simplicity in slowing down. So I love this transit, early March, April. I feel like this transit this is the painful part. When you're approaching the square, before it perfects a Pluto square, of course, this is a long period of time, but that's the point at which things are decaying and there's a pain, there's a loss, there's a dying star effect. You feel the black hole forming and you feel everything being sucked into it. And then you start to pour your focus into that space and regenerates and becomes this powerful force within you. So I think this early part of next year, March, April, almost into May, where we're experiencing the huge transit, the ingress of Pluto into Aquarius, and that's significant by itself. But then we're also collectively stuck in the South Node in Scorpio, of which Pluto is the ruler, shifting signs for the first time since 2008. And suddenly we have this, you need to use all of this and launch forward, but you must let go. So I'm curious what you think of Scorpio and Pluto squaring the nodes in relation to the financial kind of crisis and the solutions to that crisis that we're all going through right now. Because I have a lot of.
I mean, I'm loving, ultimately, I named the North Node Taurus, South Node Pluto, South Node Scorpio Pluto that we're in at the moment, this love and death nodal portal. And it really has been the death. And I noticed and have said that because Pluto rules Scorpio, is the modern day ruler, that when he shifts into Aquarius and the nodes are still, there is going to be a very different flavor to this. It's still death, but I love, just listening to you. I'm sure everyone can agree that, there's just so much potency to your words, but I can really viscerally feel like what we have to cut out, like doing this cutting out and cutting of. And now that the South nodes, the South node and North node are, at the back end of their journey, just reminding everyone, if you don't know, that the nodes do move backwards. Okay, so they're moving backwards in sign. So the North node in 2023 will move into Aries and the South node into Libra. So they move backwards around the zodiac wheel. So there is, an element of completion once they shift signs, which I know Laura will talk about with because we're getting two Pluto squares. We're getting a fixed energy and a cardinal energy. So it's quite wild that we're getting two very different senses of energy in, again, we're ending pretty much this death portal with Pluto shifting into Aquarius for the first time in 248 years and still making this very tight 4-degree square to the North and South node. And by this point, my thing is have you learned? Have you stripped back? Have you gotten back to basics? Hello, Taurus life. Scorpio wants to overcomplicate things, and yes, there is an element that we have to do that too. I love the energy of you talking about death and then the grief that humans then have to deal with, once death enters their world. But, there is this, like I've always said, like, live your life. Like, this is it. Like, this is no dress rehearsal. Like, we are all terminal right now. Like, this is it. Death is the only thing that's certain. And with Pluto squaring the South node, by the end of, because ultimately, I think even as astrologers, when the North and South node moved in, I'm like, yep, love and death nodal portal. I was prepping everyone in 2021, like, yep, this is going to happen. We've got to move into this more sublime, synchronistic way of simplicity, which is, what a Taurus archetype is. It's just like, get out into nature, love yourself, more pleasure. But the South node in Scorpio ripped us all a new one, like all of us, even astrologers, like we weren't, I think, expecting the depth and the veracity of what actually has been transpiring. So by the time we get to, this 4 degrees, in March, like you said, March, April of 2023, we're looking at, something is ending. Like you said, we're going out, because every time the nodes move and shift signs from 0 degrees to 29 degrees back into that next sign and start their new 18-month journey, it isn't a death. It is an ending and beginning, but with Pluto, they're squaring it. This is a mark of friggin' intensity, Laura. So this is wild. And on the front of money and stuff, I'm still very in the Uranus stuff. Like Uranus in Taurus is changing the fundamental way of what is of value. People still sort of, I earned 10K this week. Who the fuck cares? Are you still singing that shit? Like, there's no lesson learned in that for these coaches or whatever they want to call themselves, right? So again, like, we are transgressing and transmuting old monetary ways of what money really is. And of course, like some places aren't even taking cash money anymore. Like so much is changing. And I think you're absolutely right. Like when Pluto is there, he is like the government, he is like, and then Saturn has been doing the same thing. So this is again, so the breakdown of what we're going through right now is exponential for anyone who thinks, I talk to many people, astrologers, daily, and we are like, we've been through a lot in our lives, but this is a lot. Like this decade is monumental. So yeah, I just wanted to add that. I don't know if it answered the question, but I'm just like, I just wanted to come back with because whoa, it's just such a whoa topic.
And it's hard to, I don't want to overuse the word unprecedented, but hey, it's two fits. But you mentioned in there, like there's something is dying away. And as you mentioned, the new ways of money and understanding money and value. And that does branch off in all kinds of different innovative, unique, creative directions as well, from like cryptocurrencies to, the gold standard to, what is value. And I wonder, as there's been so much speculation about where our financial future is headed collectively, if this squaring the nodes is a final kind of preparatory stage for the end of an old way, the stripping away of an old financial practice or way of operating into whatever is to come. And who knows, because that's very, as you were saying earlier, wild card energy with Uranus in the mix in Taurus. Yes, so Pluto squaring the nodes.
Just saying before you move on, that, of course, with Uranus is the slow burn in Taurus, right? Like when we seen Uranus move into Aries, and this was from the Leo King, he shared with us that Fukushima happened immediately. Like that was Uranus in Aries, because Aries is quick, fast, explosive. Uranus is in Taurus is slow. So things are shifting slowly. And it actually reminds me, oh my God, yes, of when I used to work in a crystal shop, my manager said to me, he goes, if you put a frog in cold water and bring it to the boil, it won't know. That's what's going on, right? That's what's going on. If you are unaware, guess what? You're going to be boiling soon and you're not going to know, right? You're in this boiling water because Uranus is slow, motherfuckers. Like, in Taurus, this is slow. And it is, it's inhibited in a way that it's because Uranus wants to break free, wants lightning sharp revelations. But I mean, when you've got a stellium in Taurus like me, I'm like, it's great. Slow and steady wins the race. I mean, but I'm not in the pot of water boiling right now. I'm watching it be boiled. And there's some of us that are, some of us are watching the boiling happening and watching, humanity in this slow. The water's not even bubbling yet, darlings. I mean, Uranus has just flipped over halfway. It's not even bubbling yet.
Oh my goodness.
And we get to the end of Uranus in Taurus and we move into Uranus in Gemini, which back in the day, World War II, the Great Depression, which is a part of what we're going through in some level, as much as we, the financial crisis and stuff, like this is what's going on. Recession, Great Depression and the recession, all of these things are actually happening. So astrology is just cycles and it's wild to see how it plays out, but be mindful. Are you in that water slowly boiling? Because I think that a lot of what you're saying, this is like a real culmination, and I'm so frothy that we're talking about this. And I even wrote here long bleeding journey, because you talked about, I'm just like, I drink in all of your words, you beautiful Gemini goddess. And it's just like, this is exactly what this is. It's this long journey. Uranus is slow, Pluto is so slow, like it's like 2 degrees a year, so this is the slow point. And just remember too, next year he gets to 29 degrees, that anaretic degree, for the first time in our lives. We've never experienced him. We only got to 28 this year. So also be mindful of that. And I know that you'll talk about that square to the nodes when he, goes back into Capricorn as well. But yes, this fixed axis is like, it's like the final countdown.
Perfection. Yes. Well, speaking of final countdown, the next dates, as we move through May, we've got the square tightening to 3-degree orb as of like the second week of May, May 9th-ish. And then in June, on June 11th, Pluto begins its retrograde journey through Capricorn. So it's pausing right at that anaretic degree and starting that half year long journey backward. And then July 22nd, the square perfects. Not only does it perfect, but it's also between the Pluto retrograde on May 9th. Nope, excuse me. It's actually May 1st. So approaching that Pluto retrograde beginning journey, May 1st, as Pluto retrogrades, Mars and Venus are opposite Pluto. Most of the summer, it's Mars for the first half, Venus for the second half, and we have Venus retrograding next summer through Leo, which will be super fun. So there's a grand square that happens, Pluto opposite Mars and then Venus, and they're conjoined for a little while there, which is always interesting party stuff. And then the nodes squaring that. So we've got this almost fixed square for a moment in the summer, followed by July 22nd when the square of Pluto to the nodes perfects. And at the same time, it's actually a grand cross because Pluto is exactly opposite the sun at 29 degrees of Cancer. It just could not get any more potent. So at that point, that is the peak of this. When the square perfects, that is when the laser sharp focus of Pluto has officially reached the core. It's by no means the end or even the culmination. It's just slicing through to the absolute truth in some aspect in our lives. But again, I love your little analogy of the frog in the pot and the cool water to boil, because if you are in that pot, if you are not doing this shadow work, if you're not stepping outside of yourself and looking objectively and lovingly at every aspect, and not doing that thing where you're like, oh yeah, that's a shadow of mine, I used to do that, but I don't anymore. Nonsense. You are always capable of these shadows. So if without that real raw honesty about yourself, there's no progress forward next year. You'll feel this heightened through, of course, July 22nd, the peak, but then you've gotten to the truth at that point, but then it only continues to unfold. It's have you ever heard of black ointment?
Oh,
Black ointment.
yeah.
I've actually
You put on and it, like in something, and it draws out like if there's something. Yeah.
Okay, this is it.
Yes.
Achutara of Nightlight Astrology, he likes to talk about this Plutonic effect, the Scorpio effect of putting on black ointment, pulling something to the surface. So let's say when Pluto perfects in this square on July 22nd, the black ointment has gotten to the wound. It has not pulled it all up yet. It's like you've gotten the connection from that wound to the surface of the skin or the brain saying, we found it all, and now the excavation begins. So it's really the peak of that square is the beginning of the journey of healing. So we could say it's all downhill from there for those of us who are like, oh, well, we've had the diagnosis at that point. We know what's happening and now we can heal it, right? But that's only what people say when they don't know about healing journeys. It gets really wild and weird and hard and difficult and wonderful. It's profound and beautiful, but by no means do I want anybody listening to this to get to July 22nd next year and think, whew, we made it and now it'll be easy. That's in some ways, that's the start of this healing journey. So step out of the pot, watch it boil from the outside all through, really March, this is getting loud, all through spring into summer, halfway through summer, peak, and then watch in your own personal life and collectively. Where do you see the truths? Where can you investigate? Because, Pluto and Scorpionic energy, which again, we have on the South Node, distorts. I always think of Plutonic energy or Scorpionic energy as probably given you this speech before too. You've been called into the police station to pick out a criminal in the lineup of suspects, right? And so you're in the little room with the one-way mirror and you can see them, but they can't see you. They only see their own reflection. This is Scorpionic energy. It can see out, but not in. If I may be such an 8th house sun and speak candidly and maybe in the taboo about Scorpio energy, Scorpio is the orgasm. We're talking about stages of Libra, which is lovely, my next subject here with the nodes moving into Libra and Aries. We're talking about Libra, the sign of the scales, air sign. I love you. Do you love me? Let's make a contract. Let's have balance and an agreement. Let's create something together. Okay. And then the next stage, Scorpio, let's blend and bond. Let's share bodies, let's share emotions, let's share resources, a house, kids, I don't know, feelings.
Mm.
But you don't get
The
this.
consummation, I call the eighth house. It's the consummation, right? The deep, deep
Yeah.
merging of souls. Yeah.
Hmm.
Mm.
Which is always interesting with Mars traveling over your 8th house in Gemini this year, Libra rising.
Oh, lucky
So
you, lucky you.
yay. So you don't get this scorpionic bond that is this beautiful, intimate connection and the orgasm, which, if you think about how the French call the orgasm le petit morgue, the little death, yes? Because death is supposedly the most or the most
Stop.
orgasmic
Is that
experience.
what it's called? Le
That's what
petit
it's called. The
morgue.
little Isn't that sweet?
Oh, that is my new favorite saying. I'm putting that in my bio.
Mhm.
I'm going to
Oh, I
tattoo
love it.
that right across here. La petite morgue. That is
I want to
me.
put it, tattoo it across my collarbone right
I'm
there.
going to tattoo it across. I've got like Venus on my higher heart here. La petite morgue, just mwah, love it. Thank you so much for that. That
Oh,
is the best.
so, I guess they call it this because that bliss state of orgasm, you are realigned with source energy as the Kundalini yogis would say, you realize Satnam, your true name. You realize God, whatever that is, through the eyes of your lover. You're realigned with who you truly are. And they say that death, human death, is the most orgasmic experience you could possibly have because you're realigned with that source, that truth of self. So Scorpio energy, essentially, in essence, is power, right? This is one of the key words for Scorpio. It's God, in a sense. You could call it Uranus God, the Great Awakener, all kinds of perspectives of these are the gods, these planets. But Scorpio energy has that God truth to it, that ultimate this truth that we'll all return to upon death, whatever it may be, the great mystery of life.
Mm.
Can't just have that kind of power and godlike sharp energy that can see through things with x-ray vision as Scorpio energy can without a weakness. You can't just walk around knowing everything. So your blind spot is you. Scorpio sees out but never in. Big Scorpio placements, people with scorpionic placements, we know that in order to actually realize the truth of ourselves, we had to go through one or many series of death and rebirths because we were blind to ourselves. We go through life having mirrors and seeing reflections outside of ourselves. And then we realize, oh, that's me. How embarrassing. We die. We're reborn to the truth of ourselves. Simply put, we are collectively going through this right now as the South Node transits through Scorpio. We're all having to grapple with one of the shadows of Scorpio, which is denial, an inability to see into ourselves, a projective tendency. Libra and Scorpio placements, in my opinion, are the most projectable, the signs that project the most. It wasn't me, it was the other side of the scale. I can't see into myself, but I can see into you, and I don't like this thing in myself, so I'm going to say that it's you. So
I would also add Cancer to that as the archetype. We've got the shell, right? The crab, it's going to project, and again, I tend to definitely agree. And when we look at Scorpio too, the scorpion, it's actually an exoskeleton, but again, it's a very interesting, fascinating creature. And yes, yeah, love that. Love that. And also, I just wanted to say Pluto to my sort of quote that I've, hemmed him with is that he says to you, face the truth or the truth will destroy you. And that is really what collectively we're going through too, is that we've got to do it individually. Like, where is Pluto in your own chart? Not just your natal Pluto, but this transiting Pluto. Where is transiting Pluto? And this 29 0 degrees Aquarius, 29 cap, 28 cap, 27 cap. This is the hot water of 2023 with Pluto. The truth. This is the truth. We're coming to culmination points, but over and over again, because Pluto doesn't actually move in to Aquarius and stay there until the end of 2024. So he goes in, comes back, goes in, comes back, and then goes in. So it's a 3 pass, and so this little section in your chart is being worked.
Oh man, it is the hokey pokey of Pluto into Aquarius, in and then back.
Yeah.
Oh my goodness. Okay, so the other interesting transition here is that, and I don't have this date written down. I wonder if the nodes shifting into Aries and Libra. I forgot to jot this note down. So as they shift signs, then we have Pluto still hokey pokeying between Aquarius and Capricorn, but suddenly the themes of South Node in Scorpio, this financial axis of Taurus and Scorpio, turn into the dance of me and we, the self and the other of Aries and Libra. And this becomes really significant and interesting because when the South Node was in Scorpio, as at the time of this recording, there is, one of the dark traits of Scorpio is this almost obsession with blending, with the bond, with becoming one, with merging with the other. And this shows up, you see this in manipulation, misuse, abuse of power. You see this with misuse of other people's resources, financial, loans, debt, taxes, inheritances, emotions, other people's emotional motivations for things, understanding their psychology, their trauma, their history, and then using that against them. You can see these dark scorpionic traits of blending, and that has to do with more than one party, right? That's always me and someone else in a scorpionic conversation. So when the nodes shift, and of course in retrograde action, they ingress into Aries and Libra. South Node in Libra, some of those dark traits are being passive, being such a people pleaser, being so amenable and so cooperative and collaborative that you lose the me, you lose the sense of self and the personal needs and ambitions and motivations, and then you lose yourself in a relationship or to another and their demands. So there's this big conversational dance between Scorpio and Libra. And then on the North Node end, Taurus, which has been this slow down, simplify. And I love that the call is on a very vast collective energy level. Come forward into Taurus energy, simplify, slow down, stabilize, create some pleasure and peace within yourself. Look at the way the earth exists. Be like that. You are nature, and come back to that nature and find your roots. And then suddenly the North Node shifts into Aries, and the conversation becomes, after it's been, get out of debt and into your own resiliency and reliability, get out of scarcity and into abundance, get out of Scorpio and into Taurus. Suddenly now it's, use your connections, your collaborations, cooperations, your relationships, partnerships in a healthy way to stay connected to yourself, or to remind you of what yourself, who you are and what your role is in this world. And I love that in order to get to that stage of North Node in Aries, South Node in Libra, as Pluto is squaring them, so these same themes of keep digging, keep doing the shadow work, keep looking for the dark, ugly truth. Now it's the dark, ugly truth related to Scorpio, Taurus, and now how that plays out into Libra, Aries, your relationships and yourself and your relationship with yourself. Hello, says the Saturn in the first house. So I love that Taurus is the current answer. Stabilize, simplify, put down your roots, grow, connect to the earth, the nature that you are. And then soon, the North Node will be arriving in Aries saying, now that you've connected to the earth, now that you've dug down and gotten that earth nutrition and connected to your mother, do you remember who you are? Now go. I know you know who your people are, who the other is, and I know you feel you need that, but now who are you? Where are you going? Start. And so you get all this Aries energy, and during the slow burn of, Uranus and Taurus and Pluto squaring those nodes, it's here we go again with the P word, the U word, unprecedented. This is unreal. And what an opportunity to take your life in whole unexpected directions. And it will be unexpected because I think any astrologer out there would agree. We are not going to any familiar territory from this point on. You were saying just before we began, it's going to get weirder and weirder.
Yeah.
So, yeah, I really think in this conversation about Pluto squaring the nodes, if my clients, when they come to me, they're like, okay, and now that I understand these energies, what do you do with it? How do you use it? And so the nugget that I want to give everybody out there is that this is going to be kind of a broad strokes, my one word for this whole transit of Pluto squaring the nodes, surrender. There's really, right now, you're in Saturn squaring the nodes. It's the doing, it's the challenge, it's the push. You're being, sometimes I call Saturn the discipline daddy. Maybe I'm an 8th house sun. What are you going to do? Yeah. So there's this, he's going to discipline you. He's going to spank you if you're not paying attention and showing up, taking responsibility. But this is the doing time in a slow way. There's no speed to right now. Even if you wanted to, launch yourself forward to the North Node, Saturn is like, it's gonna block you. But next year, it's not a doing time so much anymore. Keep doing now, keep taking action now, keep exploring and digging now. Next year, there's no way forward without shadow work. If you want to make progress during this whole kind of spring, summer into early fall transit, and really this the fading, the separation of this square kind of tapers off all year. This is lingering echoes through December and into early 2024, but it's potent through July all the way through summer into fall. And there's no way through. There's no way out but through. And that
right.
is the underworld. So be prepared to
there's no way out but down.
Yeah.
And go and meet Hades.
All the way. Yeah.
Well,
so those are some of my thoughts for you.
I have loved this so much. So I just wanted to do a couple of little things. That on July the 18th is when the North Node moves into 29 degrees of Aries. I have all of that information, of course, in my 2023 energy survival kit. That's where I went to find the date. And of course, I've, aptly, got this picture because this is 2023, and it's pretty much everything that Laura has just explained. It is very heavy Plutonian. I also wanted to say that a lot of the dates that you're giving are in American too. So if you're Australian, there's going to be different dates, just so that we're all on that same page. And of course, your seasons that Laura is talking about is also Northern Hemisphere stuff, which is great. I've got a couple of American Northern Hemisphere people on, which is awesome because they're going to give the summer, whereas for us it will be the cold hard winter, right? But we will be in hell, right? Welcome to hell. I think that I've literally written that in one of my months. I was like, welcome to hell. No, but not really, but yeah, sort of. And yeah, through that, we're going to feel the difference too, I think, between that fixed Pluto square and then the cardinal Pluto square, and what I wanted to share too was really interestingly, when you said at the beginning, Pluto hit the South Node in Capricorn, 2019, 2019 leading up to that 2020 massive, hello, global friggin' everything. And so that was the meeting of them. And just like any meeting starts a new cycle. So that was starting a new cycle with Pluto and the South Node. And then the South Node, keeps moving. And this is, what I call the waxing square, the building square, the tent square, the square of crisis. What are you still holding on to? You let go of something back then, and we're moving into the Cancer North Node, which was the invitation of softness, maternal nurturing, like again, getting back to embodiment and integration, which is totally what Taurus North Node is about too. We can't skip over the lessons. We can't skip over the experience. How is your foundation? Because Saturn has been asking you to be responsible for the creation of your own dharmic reckoning on some level, and then you need to also be responsible for the karmic reckoning that's been going on, because the level of the South Node is that sense of karma, and so is Saturn, and Pluto is highly karmic as well. So we've got the fixed energy. So now we're having this waxing square in two modalities. Fixed, where, like we've talked about, it's that real, it's the, is the pot boiling now, or are you the frog there? Are you burning and blistering? Like, do you know? But then when Pluto dips back into Capricorn for the first time in nearly 10 years, the nodes have shifted to Aries and Libra. So all of a sudden, like Laura has said, we're going to be reckoning in a different way the relationships, because that's Aries. And fundamentally, this fixed Scorpio and Taurus nodes have been so intense, especially if you've got a strong fixed chart like I do. But then Aries and Libra, friggin' hell, like these are angular. These are, everything, because it's every single relationship. Libra is the other, and then, it's the me and the we here. I've called this portal, which is in my 2023 kit, Lover's Lane, because we move from actually the same planetary rulers. We have Venus, who rules this Taurus North Node right now. We have Pluto and Mars. Mars is the traditional ruler of Scorpio. So we've got the Mars and Venus, but now this switches signs. Venus has been, inviting us to Taurus to simplify the pleasure and all the things we've spoken about. But we move into the Libra South Node, and Venus is now on the South Node. What the toxicity of the relationship, the codependency, the rose-colored glasses, yes, the sacrifice of who I really am. And of course, there's going to be a whole interview of nodes. If you haven't checked that out, that's with Amber from Cosmic Playground. And so ultimately, we move from Venus as the North Node to Venus ruling the South Node, and Mars ruling the South Node to Mars ruling the North Node, Mars and Aries. So again, we're looking at strong relationship stuff again. So having Pluto squaring the end, the release of the Scorpio and Taurus North and South Node, moving into Aries and Libra, and then still squaring them. It's like it's wild, and it will feel very different. You will feel the difference. So I'm very fascinated, and so a lot of that, the squaring that I've got written down here is like from the 18th of July through till the 29th of July here down under, just that intensity of this 29 and 28 degrees. So I'm going very small orb here when Pluto's retrograde in Capricorn. So, and the nodes are fresh at 29 degrees, the anaretic degree, which is the end, which is this culmination, but the nodes are starting there. So that's why, there's such this, it's a very intense, we sort of meld into the nodal transits, don't we? Once we start to work in, because they're starting at 29 degrees and getting to zero, like purifying. So it's a wild journey of this Plutonian archetype next year, Laura, and the way you have described it, and giving us so much, like I said, visceral information on how it's going to feel. Of course, sun in the 8th house, this is what we do, but this Gemini sun in the 8th house, I love so much. And for me, I've just really been able to feel what you've been saying and how that's going to unfold. And yes, it's a mystery, and yes, we want to dive into the mystery, but this information is imperative to start understanding that, are you in this pot of water? Because if you are, you might want to jump ship now and start actually fucking taking a bit of responsibility, and no more rugs to hide under anymore. Like, this is it. This is
exposed, the expose of the awakening. I really love what you said about the sort of purification process of the nodes, moving in retrograde. So they start at the 29 at that anaretic pinnacle, and then they go toward the purest energy of that sign at zero. I love that. And the Mars and Venus, kind of almost a mutual reception situation of the nodes, not exactly, but I didn't even think about that. That's fascinating. I got to go look all into that now.
Yeah.
Oh, it's gonna be wild.
Yeah. I mean, Venus is, at home in Taurus and Libra. So whilst she is the ruler of these two, we're going from the North Node to the South Node. So interesting, we're being encouraged and invited to, this, and this is what's interesting to me, because the Taurus archetype is so self-sufficient, and it doesn't lose themselves often, depending on a whole chart. But let's just talk archetype. The inner resources of a Taurus is very strong. Like, that's very strong. Whereas Libra, even though we are both ruled by Venus, Taurus and Libra, very different. It's very mental. It's very, but do you like me? What do you think? What's your opinion? What should I do? Whereas a Taurus is like, don't tell me what to do. I'll tell you what to do. Like, they're very opposite. Well, they're actually a quincunx, right? Like Taurus, it's very interesting that they are both ruled by Venus, like just like Virgo and Gemini, both ruled by Mercury. They're in a square to one another. But whereas Venus Taurus, Venus Libra are a quincunx, they've actually got nothing in common. Earth fixed, cardinal air. Total adjustments made. And I really feel that it's going to feel very, very different with the South Node being ruled by Libra, and what we're going to have to go through and traverse again to move to our own warrioress of Aries. again, it's sort of nice in a way, because the Taurus, if you've done the work, you know, you've really grounded and anchored into your own sense of sovereignty. And then Mars comes along and rules the North Node and invites you then to this Aries to really reclaim that, pull out that sword, you know, and move through, like fire through. So it's going to be very interesting. But yeah, but all the while at the begin, and this is the thing, this is why what you've talked about is so pertinent, because this is the beginning and the end of the nodal shift all at once. Pluto's squaring them the whole time. Like you said, pretty much from March right through until definitely the end of July, where we've got the tightness. But then, like we were talking about, like the nodes actually only get to 22 degrees of Aries and Libra by December, and Pluto's still there 27, 28 degrees of Capricorn. So again, there's still this loose separating square, but it's still there. So you're right, like that March through August, you know, that real set, like that's very intense, with, you know, the shift from fixed to cardinal, the constant square, the constant, you know, edge that we're going to have to be pushed up against, like the whole time. It's really, really fascinating. And, you know, it's and we're in a collective 7 year. I mean, I've written about this in my 2023 kit. Like the 7 is reckoning. The 7 is the Mack truck year. So collectively on a numerology level, it's huge. And then we've got this, you know, this portal of Pluto that is just taking us to, you know, what are you going to sacrifice? What are you holding on to or trying to save that's not worth saving? I mean, these are the things we've got to face the truth, or the truth will destroy us. You know, and collectively we're seeing the truth destroy society. And it's hard to watch, but it's been coming for a long time. And, you know, when we come back in 2024, we'll have a lot more to talk about as well, because this whole decade is absolutely monumental and unprecedented.
The U word. You know, oh man, so funny. I was thinking, you're saying you know, you have to face the truth or the truth will destroy you. And I think there's also another side to this. Oh, yeah, I think of this in numerology too. The transfer of the 6 year to the 7 year feels Libra to Scorpionic energy to me. The year of partnership, the year of the lovers, and then all of a sudden the year of the the drop. Yeah, I think of how you're talking about how the truth, we're seeing it come forward, come out and come to light and kind of destroy or decay society, what wasn't working, what needs to die away. The solution for it is beautiful. It's so scorpionically like the polarity of this. If you are willing to be destroyed, then you become your truth. So if you don't face the truth, it will destroy you. And also, if you don't let yourself be destroyed, you're not your truth.
Yeah. I love that. No, that is so perfect. So perfect. Absolutely. I love that.
This has been so much fun.
This has been thoroughly, massively enjoyable, and has just, yeah, you know, it's so lovely to have conversation around, and the awareness to bring this to everyone who's listening, either watching or listening on my podcast, or watching, you know, through wherever Laura has shared this. You know, we do this because we love this. This is something free. You know, we've just sat here for an hour for free because we love it so much. And it's universal truth, and it's universal understanding, and it's a cosmic awareness. It's not a hierarchy. It's not something that only certain people have access to. Astrology is a superpower that we all have access to. And so when we understand our charts and resonate with an astrologer, which you've got, you know, banquet of astrologers in my panel, you know, go and send them some love. Go and find Laura on Instagram. Of course, I'm going to pop all of her links in all of everywhere we share this, in her Instagram and websites and all those sorts of things. You know, knowing astrology in a time like this becomes imperative, and not because you're going to go, oh, well, that's over, or that's that, or now I know. It's because it's just giving you this understanding that when you're in it, we can't stop a storm from coming, but when we know the storm's coming, we've got the umbrella. And then even when we're caught out in the storm, can we laugh? Can we go, oh, fuck, okay, that didn't happen? You know, like there's just this, you know, we've got to, throw our heads back in laughter so much and just laugh at the fuckery, because if we don't, it can destroy you on a different level. Like it can destroy you on a human level. But when we open to the magic of it, it gives us something that it's untangible nearly, in a way that we can navigate our lives. For me, it's so much joy, you know, it's just joy. Even when I'm deep in it, fuck, I've got Pluto opposite my moon all motherfucking year, you know. It's not all joy, but the thing is that, you know, in the depths of the tears or the depths of my own reckoning that I'm going through, I know it's happening, you know, I can see it in my chart. So it's not something that I'm trying to, you know, it's not something that I'm trying to force or stop or push away or deny or control. Exactly. Surrender is the perfect word for so much of, you know, that's so much of a 7 year, a personal 7 year, a collective 7 year. There has to be surrender, because if there's not, it's going to be sucky. Suck or surrender,
Right.
or suck and surrender. Oh, Laura, it's been such a pleasure and such an honor. Thank you so much for sharing so much valuable information for all of us to go back through, mark some dates on our calendars, get prepared for, understand that, you know, these times are coming, and, you know, we want to know about them. And what you've shared with us has given so much deep insight into you know, that very strong Plutonian archetype that you have. I can't have anyone better ever talking Pluto. I mean, you know, for years to come, it'll always be something to do with Pluto for you. And I love it. So thank you so much.
Thank you, darling. It's been so good to see you. Thank you for having me.
My absolute pleasure. Thank you all for listening, and enjoy the next interview. Mwah. Bye.